Over here, I have a button. Now, if I press this button, and let's say my cursor is over here, and if I press my mouse button and I move it, a line will be added and drawn. And if I leave my mouse button up, the drawing stops. Okay, and if I move my mouse button, alright, the line would not be drawn anymore. Okay, so if I want to draw another line, I do the same process. Alright, and I can draw as many lines as possible. So in this video, okay, what we are going to do is to learn how to do decoding, find out the mechanism behind this. Alright, let's get started. So what we have to do first is to create a new project. So open the folder and let's say open lines over here, the lines folder, and we have to create a new project. Okay, so from here, let's add a HTML file. Okay, so over here, let's call this HTML file index. But it does not matter, okay? You can just call it anything you want. So index.html, alright? And let's get the boilerplate for this. So just an exclamation mark with an enter button. Okay, exclamation mark, press enter button. So now for the title, let's call this Fabric Tutorial. Alright. So now from here, okay, let's add a canvas element, canvas, and let's give this an ID of canvas. Alright, and let's have our button. Okay, and this button, let's give this an ID of adding line button, and this will be add line. Alright, now if we go live, so as you can see, the add line button is over here. Okay, so I want it to be on the top left corner, and let's see where is the canvas element. So on our body, as you can see, the canvas element is actually here, and the width is 300 pixels by 150 pixels. This is the default size. If we have not included any size, all right, a specific size for our canvas. Okay, so the button is over here. So what we have to do is to style this. All right, so we have to add another file, which is a CSS file. So let's name this style.css. Okay, in this style.css, we have to link this, okay, to our HTML. So in the header, we just type link, then this will be style sheet, and the reference would be style.css. All right. So now in our style over here, what we have to do, okay, so what I want to do is to universally make our window to be box sizing of border box. All right, and let's say if it's Mozilla, so same thing, border box, and the margin, let it be 0, and the padding, let this be 0, and the font family, okay, let this be sans serif. All right, so now based on this, okay, let's go back here and see what happens. As you can see, there's no difference over here. All right, it's because we have not yet styled the button. So let's style the button. So the ID for the button is adding line button over here. So we can just copy this ID, and this would be adding line button, and we want the position to be absolute, and we want the top position to be at 0 pixels, and the left position to be at 0 pixels. So I want this button to be at the top left position. Okay, so let's see, where is it? Yes, it's at the top left position. Now, if we inspect this, the canvas, okay, is of the default size over here, but I want the canvas to actually be of the entire width, okay, to span out to the entire width and the entire height of the window. So in order to do this, okay, we actually have to get a library, all right, and this library that I'm using is the Fabric.JS library, okay, and it can help us, all right, adjust the canvas size. Well, you can also do it in the CSS, okay, but using this library, we can also add objects to the canvas, okay. So we have to search for Fabric.JS, okay. So this library is actually very, very good, all right. It allows you to add text, okay, and allows you to add objects over here, all right, animate objects, okay, group objects, put some shadow behind the object, and flip or invert the objects, add some patterns, and do some free drawing. All right, so let's download the latest version. Just copy this, okay, and on our file over here, we have to create another file, which is the code that we have just copied. So let's call this Fabric.js, all right, and let's just paste this code over here. You can close this, and in order to link that file, all right, we can link it in the header over here, okay, so that we can use this library. So the source would be fabric.min.js, all right. So it's using the script text over here, okay, because it's JavaScript, all right. So now we have linked this Fabric library to our HTML, all right. And one more thing that we need to do is to have our own JavaScript file, okay. So we can add our own JavaScript file, and let's call this main.js. Now in this main.js, all right, we can add all our coding, okay, that is needed to add the lines, all right. But before that, we have to link it. So we link it in the body, all right. So script, and the source would be main.js. Okay, all right. So now these are just the 3 files that we will be using. So in the main.js, all right, we have to actually create a new Fabric canvas, okay, using this canvas element over here. Since we have the Fabric library, this Fabric library, okay, will help us convert this canvas element into a Fabric canvas, and from there we can add objects and so on. All right, so let's do that. So what we can do is we can let canvas, a variable, okay, be equals to new Fabric dot canvas, all right. And we need to reference this new Fabric canvas, okay, with the canvas ID that we have given, which is this canvas, okay. So we just type in canvas over here, and now the new Fabric canvas would be created, okay. And let's give it some properties. Before that, okay, before I give it some properties, okay, let's just see what happens. All right, so the button is over here. Let's inspect this, okay, and in the body, let's see. All right, as you can see, okay, something is different. Okay, Fabric has created a canvas container over here, and this canvas container has 2 canvas elements. And since I have done nothing to the size of the canvas, all right, it is by default, okay, 300 by 150. Okay, the width is 300 pixels, the height is 150 pixels. So now I want the canvas to be of the entire width and of the entire height. So let's do that. So let's create, add in some properties over here. So for the width, I want it to be a window dot inner width, and for the height, I want it to be window dot inner height. All right. So now let's check. If we inspect, so now as you can see, these two canvases, okay, has a width of 1920 pixels and a height of 979 pixels. Okay, so it covers the entire space of the window. All right. Okay, so now what is next is to add some function to this button over here. Okay, so we have added a button. So now let's try to reference this button by its ID. Okay, let's say let adding line button equals to document dot get element by ID, and the ID used is this. So let's just copy this down. All right. So now instead of always writing document dot get element by ID of this, we can just write adding line button, and we have to add an event listener to this. So adding line button, we add an event listener, and this event listener would be a click event. Okay, so when I click the button, I want something to happen next. Okay, and we can name the function that would happen after clicking the this button. Okay, so let's name this function. So let's call it activate adding line. Okay, so this is a function, and now let's try to define this function and add some code into it. Okay, so what do we want to add into this function after clicking the adding line button? Well, there are actually three events, okay, that the Fabric bot needs to listen to. Okay, the first event would be the mouse down event. So when the mouse is clicked down, all right, that will be the event where a line must be added. Okay, so when a line is added, and if I move the mouse, the line will span out. Okay, and starting from a point, it will start to span out to become a line of a certain length, depending on how far I move the mouse away from the original point. Okay, and the last event would be a mouse up event. So when I lift my mouse button up, okay, the drawing of the line would cease. All right, it would stop, and I wouldn't be able to draw any more lines. Okay, so in order to draw a line again, I will have to press my mouse button down again. All right, so now for this, I have to have all three event listeners: a mouse down, mouse move, and mouse up. Okay, and Canvas, Fabric bot Canvas, all right, they have their own event listeners. All right, their own way of writing event listeners, and this is how it's written. So Canvas is what we have referenced it to the new Fabric Canvas. All right, the variable canvas over here, and we switch on the event listener. Oops, sorry, this should be on the event listener. So when it's on, and we want the event listener to be a mouse down event. Okay, and the function associated with this mouse down, all right, let's name it start, or rather, start adding line. Adding line. Okay. Then after that, I want to move the mouse and the line would extend out. Okay, that will be a mouse move event. So mouse move. And this function associated to this event would be start drawing line. Alright. And if I leave my mouse button up, okay, I want the drawing to stop. Alright, so when I move the mouse, okay, the drawing stops. It wouldn't be drawn continuously and so on. Okay, so this last event will be a mouse up event. Okay, so stop drawing line. Alright, so we have these three events over here. Okay, and they are associated, their respective functions over here. So let's write down all these functions. So the first one is start adding line. Alright, so this is an empty function. So the next one would be start drawing line. This is another one. And the last one would be stop drawing line. Alright, so now we have all these three functions over here. Let's look at the first one. So start adding line. So what do we want to write inside here? Okay, so if we go back to the board over here, alright, this canvas. So let's say if my mouse is over here, my cursor is over here, okay, and if I press my mouse button down, okay, I want the line to be added at this particular position where the cursor is, and I do not want the line to be added anywhere else, okay, only at this point over here. So how can I tell the Fabric canvas that my cursor is over here? Okay, so this is the way to tell it. What we can do is to add a parameter, okay, in our start adding line, and this parameter is associated to the mouse down event. Okay, and we can say let pointer be equals to canvas.get pointer o.e. Now what this does is, okay, we now know, or rather the Fabric canvas would know, okay, where the cursor is. So let me show you. So let's console .log this pointer, alright, .x. This means the x coordinate of the point, okay, of the cursor, and console.log pointer.y, the y coordinate of the pointer. And let's just see what we would have. So let's inspect this over here. So let's say my cursor is over here, and if I press my mouse, okay, I do not have the x and the y coordinates. Let's check why is this so. Oh yes, I realized there's nothing wrong with this coding. It's because I need to add I need to click the button first, and then the event listener, okay, would be executed. Alright, so let's go back here. Alright, and let's click this button, and now when I click, let's say over here, and as you can see, okay, I have the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So the x coordinate of this point would be 1050, and the y coordinate is 132. Now if I go on towards the left edge, the x coordinate is 0 and the y coordinate is 77. So due to this, okay, I can actually use this to add our line. Alright, now let's go back to our coding. So now let's try to add a line, okay, where our cursor is. So let line be equals to new fabric dot line. Alright, and in this line, oops, this should be capital L. Okay, and in this line there are a few parameters that we need to add. So the parameters would be the first point and the second the starting point of the line and the ending point of the line. Okay, so the points from where to where. All right, and let's say this is x1 y1, okay, and x2 y2. So s1 and y1 are the coordinates of the first point, and s2 and y2 are the coordinates of the second point. All right, so over here x1 and y1 would be the point where the cursor is. Okay, so instead of writing s1, we have to write pointer.x and pointer.y, and this tells Fabric, okay, that the line starts from pointer.x, pointer.y. Okay, now what do you think about the ending point, x2 and y2? Well, since this is a mouse down event, all right, and we are not actually moving the mouse, we are just pressing the mouse downwards, okay, the ending point must be the same as the starting point. Okay, so this line is actually a point. All right, so I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, the line actually starts from a point, okay, where our cursor is, and it ends at that same point. All right, because it's a mouse down event, so this should be pointer.x, and this is pointer.y. All right, now we have to add some parameters, or rather some properties to this, so that we can actually see the line, okay, later on. So let's give it a stroke. So stroke means the color, red color, and a stroke width, which is the thickness. Let's give it 3 pixels. All right, so the next thing is to add this line on the canvas itself. So what we can do is to write canvas.add, oops, not event listener, .add line over here. And after we add the line, we actually have to render, okay, the canvas so that the line can appear. So request render all. Okay, so now let's just see what we would get over here. All right, so I press this button. Let's say I press over here. So we can't see anything. All right, but let's say if I select. Okay, I'm not sure whether you can see it, but there's actually 2 points over here, okay, that I click on just now. All right, and this is where the line is added. Okay, but because it's a point, it's actually very hard to see it. All right. So what we need to do next is to write something in the mouse move event, the start drawing line function. All right. So in order to write the coding, okay, so for the start drawing line, okay, what we have to think of, what can we write inside? So when we press our mouse down, okay, the line is added, and when we move the mouse, all right, we want the line, okay, to extend to wherever the cursor, the new position of the cursor is. All right, so it means the x2 and the y2 position must be different. All right, so the one that I highlighted over here, okay, the pointer.x, pointer.y, the second pair must be different from the first pair. Okay, it must be at the new position of where the cursor is. So then we can actually see the line. All right, the point becomes a line. So what we need to do is to reference the line, and since I let the variable line, okay, to be inside the function, we actually can make it a global variable. All right, a global variable would be better, so I can actually reference this. Okay, so I have to first get the positions of my new the new position of the cursor. So let pointer over here, this is O, alright, and we write line, the line that we have just added, we have to set it to the new, we have to set it to the new position. Okay, the ending point must be at the new position. So the x2 position, it will still be pointer.x, but take note, this pointer.x is not the same as this pointer.x over here. Alright, this pointer.x is the new x coordinate of the cursor when I move it. Okay, and the y2 coordinates must be pointer.y. So same thing, same reasoning for this. Pointer.y is not the old pointer.y value over here. Okay, pointer.y is actually the new y coordinate of the cursor when I move it. Alright, so I have to set this. Okay, so when I set this, alright, and let's see what do we have from here. Okay, so let's add line. So it says cannot read property set of undefined. Okay, at 33 over here, let's see what happens. Okay, let line cannot set property of undefined. Alright, maybe we have to write canvas.request render all. Okay, and let's see what happens. So if I press this button, so the error still occurs, but if I press my mouse button down, as you can see, the line is being drawn over here. Okay, alright, so we still have this error over here. We need to rectify it. So how we rectify it is because when I press this button, okay, it would execute all these three events. Alright, so if I did not press my mouse down onto the canvas, alright, the line wouldn't be created. Okay, it wouldn't be added, it wouldn't be created, and it wouldn't be added. And because the mouse move event has been activated as well, okay, and we say that we set the line to a new position of our cursor when we move the mouse, okay, it cannot find where this line is, okay, because the line is not there in the first place. Alright, so what we can do is to add some conditions for this. So let's say we let mouse down equals to false. Now, when the mouse down event has been activated, okay, the mouse down must be equals to true. Alright, so mouse down equals to true over here. And when the mouse down is true, we add a condition on our mouse move event, which is the start drawing line function. So we can say if mouse down equals to true. Alright, all this coding would be executed over here. Okay, so only when the mouse down is true, all this will be executed. So if I go back here and I press the button, and when I move the mouse, as you can see, there's no more error. Alright, now if I press my mouse down and I move it, as you can see, a line is drawn. Okay, but there's a problem now. When I lift up my mouse button, okay, the line is still being drawn. Okay, and why is this so? Is because mouse down is still true. Alright, so we need to make mouse down equals to false, and then the drawing will cease. Okay, so in our stop drawing line, and this function is associated to the mouse up event. Okay, stop drawing line. So over here, we say mouse down, okay, equals to false. All right, so let's check over here. We press the button, we add the line, move it. So let's say I want this line to be this long. I lift up my mouse button. As you can see, when I move my mouse, okay, the line is still not yet, it stays fixed, all right? It's not being drawn continuously, okay? So if I want to draw another line, I just press my mouse and I lift it up, and this will be the line, okay? But now there's another issue, okay, which is this selection box over here. Let's say I do not want to have this selection box, okay? What we can do is to switch it off. All right, so how do we do that? So once we click this button, add line button, we can tell Fabric to switch off the selection. So we can say canvas.selection, we let be false. All right, false. Okay, so once this is false, I press the button, and as you can see, there's no selection box anymore. All right, so this is how lines are being added. Okay, so in the next video, I will talk more about how to stop drawing lines and and selecting the lines. Okay, because now as you can see, I can't select any of the lines, because when I press my mouse down, it will just create a new line and start drawing it. So I'll see you in the next video, and we'll talk more about that. All right.